know, your ass better call somebody.
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, reppin' both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, misunderstood. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city sand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite, voices like the park. Fans drift in jerseys, legacy bold. The Metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline gleams, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here with your boy CP. Unfortunately, Rob could not join me for this stream. I think we're going to try to get a post-game stream after Mets versus Royals game 2, so be on the lookout for that on both of our channels. But we are here briefly discussing and previewing Mets versus Royals game 2, kicking off in about maybe an hour and a half, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do have the pitching matchup solidified between these two teams and also the starting lineup for the New York Mets. And I have to breathe a sigh of relief because I totally thought that we were going to see Jared Young in this starting lineup after he rejoined the Mets yesterday in the corresponding move that put Jesse Winker back on the IL. But before we fully get into this stream, again, it's not going to be too long. We did a recap of yesterday. It was a day after recap on the channel. You can check that out. It's between me and Zach just about an hour ago, a little over an hour ago. And we talked everything that you need to know about the current state of the New York Mets, the roster construction, the game from yesterday, trade talks, all that fun stuff. We went ahead and covered that. So please do hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel on this stream. I definitely appreciate it, and drop those comments in the live chat. Hopefully everyone's having a great weekend, and hopefully everyone is having a safe weekend as well. George, salute to George, salute to the chat as well. CP, great show with Zach. Shout out CP, great recap. Let's get another win today. And LGM from Oliver. I definitely appreciate you all being here. All right, let's talk about this game. Again, we recapped yesterday's game, so I'm going to save you all the recap. Go check that stream out. Frankie Montas versus Michael Lorenzen. And where do we want to start off? Where do we want to start off? Do we want to start off with the offense or the pitching? And you know what? We might as well just start off with the pitching here, because Michael Lorenzen, who is a journeyman at this point of his career, is getting the nod for the Kansas City Royals. And I'm going to be very brutally honest with you all. There is not one single reason why the Mets should not come out of the gate swinging today and get Frankie Montas a lead to work with in this outing, right? As we mentioned previously, Frankie Montas, we know what we're going to get from Frankie Montas. Hopefully it's a competitive outing, but we know that he's going to give up runs. You're not going to get 4 to 5 scoreless innings, although he did post that in his first game back against the Atlanta Braves. You're not going to get that from Frankie Montas, and you shouldn't expect that from Frankie Montas at this point, right? He's going to let up runs. But if the offense does their jobs against Michael Lorenzen, especially early in the game, because recently they've been putting up runs, but it's been later in the game, and it's put a lot of pressure on the pitching staff and the bullpen. And yesterday was a prime example, going into the 8th inning down 3-1. Frankie Montas, I think the key to his success is pitching with a lead. And that's really the key to success, to give breathing room for any pitcher. But I think it's very integral, especially for Frankie Montas, for the confidence level. And so that's what I'm really looking out for here. Michael Lorenzen, there's nothing special about Michael Lorenzen. I'm sorry to say, there's nothing special about him as a pitcher in the year 2025. He's pitching to over a 4.6 ERA, 4.60 ERA. I think it's 4.61 to be exact. Someone quote me on that. But, I'm taking a look at the pitches. He's got a lot of pitches that he uses. None of them he's having a very high success rate with this year. None of them. And so I'm sure he's going to try to keep the Mets hitters off balance as per usual. He's not going to overly rely on one pitch because none of them are dominant. And that just opens the door for the Mets offense to come out of the gate swinging, like I said. And that's what it's going to have to that's what it's going to have to be. And so for Frankie Montas too, again, you know what we know what we should expect from Frankie Montas. I'm hoping that he's able to mimic a performance like he did in his last outing against the New York Yankees. I think that was a pretty respectable outing from Frankie Montas, even though he only gave up, I think he actually gave up 4 runs. So the offense did their job in that game. It was a 12-6 victory. And like I said, the key to victory here in general in game 2 of this series is for the offense to just take off. You can consider it a win if you get 5 innings of 3-run baseball or 4-run baseball from Frankie Montas because the Mets offense should be outproducing that. They should be outproducing the Royals lineup. And I'm not saying the Royals lineup is bad by any stretch of the imagination. They have very talented players. Bobby Witt Jr., who went yard yesterday against Huascar Brazaban, Vinny Pasquantino, right? Salvador Perez always finds a way to kill the Mets. I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure how that's the thing, but it is. So they've got talent in their lineup and they've got some weapons in their lineup. But this Mets offense, what you see on your screen, a little bit different, and we'll talk about the configuration of the offense in the lineup here that Mendoza threw out in game 2 compared to game 1. There's some differences in positions, and there's some differences at the bottom of the lineup going left, right, starting with Jeff McNeil. But yeah, there's no reason why this offense should not dominate Michael Lorenzen. And 2 runs, 3 runs, that's not a win for the Mets offense at this point. It's July 12th. It's July 12th. We're not talking about late May. We're not talking about early June. It's July 12th. It's time to flip the switch. Time to flip the switch. And Brad is asking why with the lineup configuration. That's a very good point. And let me just make sure that I actually made this lineup correctly and that I have it correct on the screen because I saw that and I also did a double take. I was like, why is Nimmo in the 2 spot again? Let's see what the Mets. Yeah, I do have that wrong. I do apologize. So let me fix this real quick. Bear with me. Typo, of course, per usual. It wouldn't be one of these streams if it wasn't a typo. So that is my mistake, Brad. That's a very good catch. I didn't even catch that. So Lindor is batting second and Nimmo is batting leadoff. Let me flip that. Here we go. And we just talked about this on the recap stream too, about how great of a switch that was for Mendoza to implement to really try to get this lineup going and having Brandon Nimmo go back to, his stomping grounds at the leadoff spot. So yeah, that wouldn't really make sense if Mendoza made that switch and reverted back to the old ways there. Hold on, let me switch this. Bear with me. Here we go. As it's loading, StreamYard is notoriously slow. Okay, there it is. There's the switch. All right, so leading off, Brandon Nimmo playing left field. Francisco Lindor in the 2-hole at shortstop. That was a brilliant decision. Again, last year it was Francisco Lindor in the early stages of the season, really struggling to get going. Brandon Nimmo was showing that he was continuing, having some power to his game. They made that switch. Mendoza made that switch with Nimmo and Lindor. Lindor took off and Nimmo kind of faltered. Nimmo has not looked confident or comfortable in any position in the middle of the lineup, whether it's 3 or 4. I guess he has done a little bit better in the 5 spot, but not really all that much compared to if he is batting in the top 2 spots, leadoff or in the 2-hole. So Lindor's in the 2-hole. Juan Soto is batting 3, DHing. Little bit of concerns, I guess, surrounding this Mets fan base talking about, I think it's just a scheduled day off from the field for Juan Soto. He has been a staple in right field for this entire season, and his defense has just tremendously improved out there in right field. I mean, everybody, Yankees fans, everybody around the league was kind of just making fun of the Mets for signing this contract for a glorified quote unquote DH. And it seems like Juan Soto has taken that personally as his defense is vastly improved out there in right field. But he is getting the DHing duties. He did foul a ball off of his leg yesterday. So you got to wonder if that has anything to do with it. Hopefully it doesn't. And hopefully this is just a scheduled off day from the field. But that's something that we will continuously monitor with Juan Soto and how that leg is holding up. But he is getting the DHing duties today, batting 3. Pete Alonso is in the cleanup spot as per usual, batting 4. Playing first base, Pete Alonso had a dreadful day yesterday. If you didn't see the clip that was going around Twitter, snapping his bat over his leg after a strikeout. And I believe he had 3 strikeouts on the day. He was 0 for 4. It was not a pretty performance. And Pete Alonso has been so good for this Mets team all season long. He's going to get a fat contract after the end of the season, whether it's with the Mets, and hopefully it is with the Mets or somebody else. And he took a gamble on himself, and he is continuing to prove why he is worth the money that he is going to be asking for. And so that is it's just something where Pete Alonso, he just needs some help. I mean, the top of this lineup needs some help. They need some help. Those top 4 guys, the Fab 4, according to Steve Cohen, they need some help. And the biggest help that those guys can get is by the man who is batting in the 5th spot today, and that's Mark Vientos, playing third base. Now, it's very interesting, Mark Vientos getting the duties at third base today, a little bit of a switch up there, Mauricio getting the day off. Vientos had himself a really good day at the plate yesterday, and he had the biggest hit in the game for the New York Mets, a bases clearing double, opposite field. Both of his base hits yesterday came from the opposite field, and it just seems like he is swinging a good bat ever since coming into the game in that Orioles series when Jesse Winker went down. And all season long, we were talking about this lineup being a little bit top heavy, and which it still is. To be fair, it still is. But if Vientos can get it going here before the end of the All-Star break and carry that over into the second half, that is going to just pay so many dividends to the continued success of this lineup. So hopefully every Mets fan is hoping that yesterday and maybe the swings that he was putting on the baseball in the Orioles doubleheader gets him going. And that's all we can ask. Brad is saying Soto was limping after he scored in the 8th inning, so that could be it as well. Yeah, Soto is DHing. And so like I said, I hope that it's not anything related to any sort of, I guess, injuries or any sort of dust ups that happened with his leg, whether it was with the foul ball or whether it was with the slide or just scoring in the 8th inning, as Brad was saying. But I'm sure we'll get a report on that. There's nothing that Juan Soto can do in this Mets uniform. He can't even breathe without it being reported at this point. You know what I mean? It just seems like there's just this continued microscope surrounding Juan Soto, and as there should be, but again, that's a conversation for later. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But yeah, I think Juan Soto will be fine. I think Juan Soto will be fine. He's a gamer. Mendoza has said that countless of times, and Mendoza is just looking to protect the star player of this team, and that makes all the sense in the world. So rounding out the lineup, Jeff McNeil playing right field. Clearly, if Juan Soto's DHing, somebody needs to be out there in right field. That's going to be Jeff McNeil. He also took an 0 for yesterday, but he's been swinging a really good bat this season. Very impressed with Jeff McNeil this season. Brett Beatty playing second base, batting 8, and Luis Torrens catching, batting 9. And really, if Torrens is able to do anything in that 9 spot, it's also going to pay immense dividends to try to flip the lineup over. And Luis Torrens has basically fell off of a cliff offensively when everybody was talking about sending Alvarez down and making Luis Torrens the main catcher, which he now is because Alvarez is in AAA. The bat has just not been the same. The bat has just not been the same with Luis Torrens. He did get a base hit yesterday, but again, the offense is lacking. So a little bit of a switch up there in the 7, 8, and 9 hole compared to yesterday. I think Tyrone Taylor was batting in the 9 hole yesterday. Luis Torrens was moved up. But any which way you draw it, I mean, clearly they want to go right, left, right, left, right. starting with Vientos and McNeil and then going to Taylor Beatty. That makes sense. But there needs to be production from the bottom of this lineup. And Mauricio and Beatty have been providing that as of recently. It's time for Tyrone Taylor and Luis Torrens to also start providing something with their bats. And as we discussed on the live stream just an hour ago, you have Jeff McNeil, who is able to play a competent center field. No, he is no Tyrone Taylor with his glove. Everybody knows that, right? Jeff McNeil is a clear drop-off defensively in center field from Tyrone Taylor. Not many guys around this league can replicate with the glove what Tyrone Taylor does. But if Tyrone Taylor doesn't start hitting consistently, you're going to start seeing Jeff McNeil play center field a whole lot more, because guess who is hitting and have been hitting for the past couple of weeks? It's been Brett Beatty, who's swinging a decent bat, and Ronnie Mauricio. And they're just going to shift over to second base, and McNeil's just going to go shift over and take some playing time away from Tyrone Taylor. It's unfortunate, but that's what it is. The Mets need to figure out how to get the most offensive consistency as possible. And right now, with the way that Tyrone Taylor's swinging the bat, it's going to be with Jeff McNeil in center field, regardless of the defensive drop-off. And if Tyrone Taylor catches a hot streak like he was able to down the stretch of last season when he simply, nobody can get him out, because he has that in him. He has that in his bat. Tyrone Taylor has a good bat, but it just has not been showing as of recent. And it's been spiraling. It's been, I wouldn't say a couple of weeks probably for Tyrone Taylor, not really making much contributions offensively. So, and then you have Jose Siri. I don't think his timetable is close. You're talking about probably another month away from seeing Jose Siri healthy and ready to go. But that begs the question, if Jose Siri is, coming back on his way back come August, maybe mid-August, like what happens then? And at that point, we're going to be talking about maybe a different team with the trade deadline having already passed at that point. But there's going to be a logjam in the outfield. It doesn't seem like there's a logjam in the outfield right now, because there really isn't. There's two center fielders capable of playing. I guess you can toss in a third with Luis Angel Acuna, but the Mets have been reluctant to do that. But once Jose Siri comes back, that is a different story. And who knows if Brett Beatty will be on this team at that point? Who knows if Ronnie Mauricio will be on this team at that point? So I'm expecting some shakeups, but to what degree? I don't think anybody knows. And to answer your question, there is no solidified news on trades yet for the New York Mets. The only concrete report that we've heard and that I've seen on social media surrounding the Mets is that, one, they're going to be very highly interested in high leverage bullpen arms, because how can they not be? They have to continue to rely on Ryan Stanek. And that's going to take me into my next point here in just a second. But the only other news that I've seen, and that it's changed quite a bit since the news came out, is that they were interested in Marlins right-hander having a breakout season, Edward Cabrera. And Edward Cabrera, in his outing yesterday, he got injured. So that changes the outlook completely. I actually don't know what injury he sustained, but this close to the deadline, it's not something you really want to be seeing after seeing a report that the Mets were highly interested alongside the Cubs to add to the starting pitching rotation with Edward Cabrera. So other than that, all the videos that I've been releasing on my channel have been strictly targets that I have identified that could definitely make an impact in a positive way for the New York Mets. I've talked about Felix Bautista. I've talked about Kyle Finnegan. I've talked about Seth Lugo. As Oliver's saying here, I don't think we'll face him tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. By the way, tomorrow is Sean Manaea bump day. The tribal chief will be back. Sean Manaea. Let's see what the pitching matchups are looking like tomorrow. No, it's going to be Clay Holmes starting and Sean Manaea coming in after Clay Holmes. And Noah Cameron. He's got some decent numbers. He's a lefty with a 2.56 ERA is going for the Royals. So the Mets will miss Seth Lugo in this series. But Seth Lugo is a guy that the Mets should also be interested in a reunion with. And I've also talked about him. I've talked about Mitch Keller, right? I've talked about Luis Severino, who's not having a good season. Seth Lugo is a guy that I'm very interested in at this trade deadline. I think that he would be a great addition alongside Minaya and Senga at the top end of this rotation. He's not going to be an ace. Kodai Senga would still be your ace. There's not going to be this is what I hope to this is the point that I've been trying to get across. And I will state this on the video that I release tomorrow. New True Mets Talk trade target for the Mets episode is coming out tomorrow. Time is TBD, but hit the notifications buttons. There is not going to be at this deadline, right? Before we get back into this game preview, there is not going to be that many aces that are available at the front end that can headline the Mets rotation. In all likelihood, Kodai Senga is still going to remain your ace, and you can get in a viable number 2 or maybe number 3, depending on how you view them alongside Sean Manaea and how Sean Manaea is doing and coming back from the injury. But Seth Lugo, not an ace, pitching to just over 2.5 ERA this season, a really good pitcher, but not a guy that is going to take over a ball game. That's not who you think about when you think about true aces, right? There's not that many true aces out there on the trade market this deadline. I'm sorry to say. Unless a team just absolutely gets wowed, there's no chance that a guy like Paul Skeens is going to get traded from the Pirates. No matter what the situation is in Pittsburgh, there's no chance. The best chance for the Mets to maybe acquire an ace, and he hasn't been performing like it this season, is Sandy Alcantara. And he's pitching to over a 7 ERA. So I can't even name you another guy that might be traded that I think about as an ace. But we still have a couple of weeks left. You're looking at a Mitch Keller. He's a number 3 starter in your rotation, right? You're looking at a Seth Lugo, who's a borderline 2, but probably a 3 in your rotation. Severino would be a Montas-esque, acquisition. So I'm not even thinking about Luis Severino at this point because he's just not having a good season. So, yeah, the bullpen market, this is why I've been making more bullpen videos, early here into this trade deadline season, because there's just a lot more options for the Mets to inquire about from the bullpen standpoint. And let's talk about the bullpen real quick here in this pregame stream, because, the Mets used Alex Carrillo for 2 innings, not scoreless. He gave up 1 earned run, but he looked really good. Really impressed by Alex Carrillo. Second outing of the season. He threw 2 innings yesterday. Huascar Brazaban threw an inning, gave up the home run, couple runs. Reed Garrett was used yesterday, and Davinsky was used yesterday. So you got Edwin Diaz available in this game for sure for the New York Mets if it's either a tie game or if the Mets are up in the 9th inning. I'm curious, with no Jose Butto available, I'm curious what Mendoza does in this game. Because I think the likely answer is that he's going to have to continue to try to entrust in Ryan Stanek, and I think that's a mistake. But what other options does Mendoza have at this point? You got Dickie Lovelady as an option for a lefty, right? You got Brandon Waddell as an option for a lefty out of this bullpen, and hopefully my Wi-Fi is holding up here, so if I'm breaking up, you all let me know. Showing got a really low signal. Hopefully that comes back. Can you all still hear me? Hopefully I'm good. Let me know in the chat if you can't hear me. But not really like many options for Carlos Mendoza out of this bullpen outside of Edwin Diaz, right? I mean, I'll take Brandon Waddell out there. I think that he's proven that he is capable enough to go out there in not a high leverage situation, but to go out there and provide something for you out of the bullpen. Carrillo, I would entrust in. You have to entrust in him, and the Mets did yesterday. I mean, Dickie Lovelady, I don't really trust that guy. Ryan Stanek, I think his trust, any trust that he had, in my mind, is completely out the window with what transpired in Baltimore. That was an egregious performance by Ryan Stanek. It was simply inexcusable at that, with 4 walks. So I'm curious to see. Mendoza's job is really tough. And that's why when we questioned the decision to take David Peterson out, in the later stages of the ball game, at 90 pitches, it's because us fans know that there's a lack of options in this bullpen. Mendoza even knows that there's a lack of options in this bullpen. So basically telling us that you are going to entrust Ryan Stanek to preserve what David Peterson left off in that ball game is wild to me. And if Frankie Montas goes out there somehow and delivers a gem, I'm talking about maybe giving up 2 runs and going 6 innings, and you're telling me that the 7th inning is going to belong to Ryan Stanek, I don't know. I wouldn't know how to feel. Actually, I know how I would feel. I wouldn't trust the guy, and I would want him to prove me wrong. But this bullpen is clearly banged up. I mean, they have been for months, and they've just been trying to piece it together with all these call-ups and send-downs and DFAs and the whole 9 yards. It sucks. But that's the situation that the Mets are forced to deal with right now. And that's why I really think if Clay Holmes is not an option to go back into the bullpen in the second half, you have to acquire 2 bullpen arms, good bullpen arms. And that's why I talked about Kyle Finnegan, because he's an expiring deal. You're probably not going to bring him back next season, but he's pitching really well this season. Not going to cost you all that much money and gives you room to go acquire another reliever at the deadline alongside a guy like Finnegan. Bautista from the Orioles, different story. He's going to cost a little bit more prospect-wise because he got 2 years attached to him in arbitration years after this season. So when I talk about these bullpen targets on my videos, hopefully you all are paying attention because I always make sure to tell you all what the contract outlook is. And that's going to determine, how much prospect capital or MLB ready talent the Mets are going to have to give up at this coming deadline. So I like Kyle Finnegan a lot for those reasons, but we'll see how David Stearns decides to play it. But the way that this bullpen is shaking out, even when Buto comes back, even when Rayleigh comes back, that's going to be a really nice start to getting this bullpen back on track, having those 2 guys back alongside Edwin Diaz, right? Alongside Reed Garrett and Huascar Brazoban. But I think you're definitely going to need 1. I still think you're going to need 2 bullpen arms at the deadline. So Ken obviously thinks that David Stearns isn't going to do anything at this deadline. I think that's a very popular take amongst Mets fans right now that have been seeing the way that this team has been going the past couple of weeks. I'm still going to say it. I still think that he's going to get the job done. I think he's going to get us a starter. I think he's going to get us a bullpen arm. I'm not sure about the bats. That is the least sure of this trade market that in what I'm assessing. I don't know about the bats. I mean, you've got Duran, who's probably not going to get traded, if I had to guess. You've got Suarez, who will be traded. Do I think it's to the Mets? No. I'm not really sure how much of an upgrade the Mets are going to get offensively. That's the biggest question for me. But the pitching, I think David Stearns will get it done. I think he knows what this team needs. This is his time to show us that this is a true championship caliber team. And if he doesn't go all in at this deadline, right, and make the necessary moves, that's very indicative and telling us fans that they either are confident in this team as is, which I think is pretty crazy, or that they're still waiting until next year. And that's going to piss me off a lot. And I'm a David Stearns defender. So he's got this deadline and it will be assessing it. And Rob's going to go crazy as soon as we get this trade deadline over with. Rob is going to come on here and we're going to have a stream where he's going to go all in on David Stearns if he doesn't make the moves that make this team better. So I have a hard time believing that David Stearns is that naive about this team. I know he operates and has a certain philosophy that a lot of Mets fans don't like, and it drives me crazy sometimes too, but I don't think he's naive enough to forego going all in at this deadline when this league, let alone this division that the Mets are only a half game back of the Phillies in, but this league, the entire National League, is wide open. The Dodgers are scuffling. The Phillies, you're neck and neck with them. The Braves are out of the question. The Cubs are a good team. The Mets are better than the Cubs. I'm sorry. At this point, the Mets are better than the Cubs. The Giants are a good team. I think the Mets should be better than them. The Padres are up there. It's wide open. Like, all these teams are good. So be aggressive. Be aggressive. Yeah, this chat always makes me laugh. I love it. I love it. Yeah, Frankie Montas versus Michael Lorenzen. Go out there and get it done. This is a matchup that I think that these pitchers are pretty evenly matched. I think Montas, the key to success for Montas in this game is going to be throwing his splitter, because that's been the one pitch alongside his four-seam fastball that has actually worked for him at a decent clip. His slider's been getting shelled. His sinker's also been getting shelled. Those are no good pitches for him this season so far. I think he's got to really rely on that splitter to try to keep hitters off balance. And if he's able to dial it up to 96, 97, like he has been in his last start, at least, right? I think he's hitting 96, and you think he touched 97 maybe, but that's good velocity. And unlike Michael Lorenzen, who doesn't have that kind of primary pitch to fall back on, I think Montas can implement that game plan today and kind of rely on that. So that's my 2 cents on this game. But the lineup is the lineup. This lineup should be able to put up runs. I know that it's a little bit of a different look. There's no Ronnie Mauricio. Guys are playing a little bit out of position. I mean, Vientos at third base. See how he does. Ronnie Mauricio has been playing a really competent third base, which I like. Brett Beatty back at second base. I mean, this lineup should be able to put up runs against Michael Lorenzen. And if they can't, then that's a problem. Let's look at, hold on. Let's look at Michael Lorenzen's Savant page real quick. I looked at it earlier, but I'm going to look at it again while I'm on stream here. Oh my goodness, the Savant page. It's all blue. It's no good. No good. The only good thing about Michael Lorenzen this season is that he does not walk hitters. He is well below league average in terms of his walk rate. League average is at 8.4%. He's at 6.8%. It's pretty good. This is his best career year. I mean, outside of 2016 with the walks or lack thereof. So he's not going to walk you. He's going to throw you strikes. Mets lineup has to hit him. And I guess his changeup is his primary put away pitch. Maybe. He just got like 7 different pitches, so it's tough to analyze here. Sliders kind of middle of the road. I guess he gets a lot of his put away stuff from the slider too, but it's hittable. His curveball is his worst pitch. Sinker's not good. The changeup is his best pitch, really. So there's no reason why this offense shouldn't be doing damage against Michael Lorenzen. I'm sorry. And I still hope that what Mendoza said in the post game the other day, after the Mets were embarrassed in game 1 against the Orioles, I still hope that in the back of every hitter's mind in this Mets lineup, they keep remembering that Mendoza was very sure to put that game on them. And Mendoza doesn't do that frequently. And that might have been a strategic move for Mendoza to go and out this offense, which is fine if that's the intention. I think I took it as a little bit of lack of accountability from Mendoza's side. I think a lot of fans took it the same way. But if he deliberately did that to light a fire under this lineup's ass, then so be it. Hopefully they're able to carry that over into this game. So 8-3 victory in game 1. You got a chance to take a series and go for the sweep tomorrow with 2 of your starters on the mound in the last game before the All-Star break. End this first half on a high note. We'll enjoy the All-Star break. We've got multiple Mets in this All-Star game. David Peterson, Lindor, Pete Alonso, Edwin Diaz, etc. Juan Soto's still not an All-Star, unfortunately, even though he should be. But yeah, Frankie Montas, Michael Lorenzen, kind of a mid pitching matchup. Nothing to excite you about. It's really, I think who wins this game is going to be which offense shows up to play. And hopefully it's the Mets offense. So appreciate you all being here. Again, this is the second stream of the day. We're going to try to get a post game in with Rob and myself after game 2. So keep an eye out on that on both of our channels. Hit the notifications button. Whenever we go live, you'll get notified on the channel or post a new video. Trade season is upon us in a couple of weeks, so there's going to be a lot of videos going up. I'll post another bullpen trade target video tomorrow, so make sure to check that out. And as always, let's go Mets. We'll see you all a little bit later. Take the series. Take the series today. Don't play around. Let's go Mets. See you all later. Peace.